cardinal rule of sales is whenever you speak, especially when you ask a question, do not ask your questions or talk like a dumbass. In other words, the way you're actually phrasing things, if you want to ask someone, how much money did you make last month? The question is, how much money did you make last month? It's not, so I'm kind of wondering, with your job, like kind of how's it kind of going? Like what kind of going? Like what do you mean, how's it? Like, do I like my job? Do I like my boss? Do I like my office? What are you asking them? You have to get better at being crystal clear with what you're asking the prospect. This has so many knock-on implications. Number one, consciously or unconsciously, if you ask your questions like a dumbass, the prospect thinks of you as a dumbass. They don't think of you as someone that they want to give their credit card to, even if they love your offer, they are in desperate pain, and you've actually shown them that they need the offer. They just don't look at you as someone trustworthy because of the way that you're actually communicating things. Another example is if you ask your questions in a convoluted way, you wonder why your sales calls take an hour and a half, because you're beating around the bush to get to what you're actually trying to ask. This is why when we do the call reviews, the most important thing about doing a call review is not just finding the problem, it's when you find the problem, you have to do the pruning shears of revision, and you have to rewrite the thing so that you actually take the problem and you make it better. If one of the problems in your call review, when you look at the transcript, is, I had to ask that question 3 times to get to the answer I wanted. What was it about the way you asked the question, the way you phrased it, as to why you had to keep re-asking it? Every time you do that, it's going to shut the prospect down. They don't trust you. They become a more difficult prospect, and it's taking you longer on the call to get to what you really want to get to. Another way that you can ask your questions like a dumbass is when you ask irrelevant questions. You ask something that isn't really moving the ball forward. Same thing. Call time takes longer. Prospect doesn't trust you. They think you're an idiot. They don't open up to you. And then why do you think at the end of the call, when you have to handle your objections, you're dealing with what's called a smokescreen, which is prospects just lying to you? Well, they're lying to you because they don't look at you as someone that shouldn't be lied to. If they look at you as an expert, as someone that's very clear with the way you speak, much, much, much less likely that at the end of the call they say, I need to pray on it. When that's not true, they're just nervous. And so when people are trying to handle objections by figuring out what the objection was at the end of the call, they're missing that the reason you got the objection could be nothing to do with what's going on at the end of the call. It could simply be the frame that you've created of how they perceive you. You can get an objection at the end of the call just simply because the person thinks they're not really asking the questions in a very clear way. I'm wondering about the fulfillment of this program. What are the coaches like? If this is the salesperson, how good's the program going to be? And so when you're looking at objection handling training that doesn't include all of the things that are going on earlier in the call that could be causing the objections, you're missing and leaving so much money on the table, because it's not just trying to handle it at the end of the call.